welcome to this week's edition of World Crisis Radio. This is Webster Tarpley speaking from Washington, D.C. Now, our educational focus remains the New York City mayor's race and the struggle to get Randy Credico on the ballot for the Tax Wall Street Party, to, in effect, get Tax Wall Street on the ballot of a major election here in the United States for the first time. And in our first hour, I hope to bring you an interview with one of the people who is working hard to make that possible, someone who has contributed a great deal to the Credico mayoral campaign. First of all, for the Democratic primary for mayor of New York, that's on September 10th, and the signature gathering, which is now going on to get him on all the way to November. 2 more months of agitation, campaigning, and political education of the masses. That would reach to the 5th of November, I believe, first Tuesday after first Monday in November. And that effort has to be concluded now within 3 weeks, actually less than 3 weeks, by the 20th of August. So these first 20 days of August are the key to getting Credico on the ballot in the November election. That takes about 7,400 signatures. So we'll hear about that. The other questions that we have to look at, we've had what I think was a large-scale operation of the Muslim Brotherhood, which I believe has been blocked. But this was a close thing, and I think what I'm seeing, the intelligence picture that I'm getting, is that we were dealing with an attempt to create the Muslim Caliphate. The Caliphate, yes, to go back to what we haven't had in the world since the fall of the Ottoman Empire, right? When the Turkish Ottoman Empire ended right after World War I, up until that point, the Turkish Sultan had for a couple of centuries been the caliph of the Ummah, of the Islamic world. And that came to an end with the work of Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. And I think what we've just had, and we're still in the middle of it to some extent, is the attempt to create that caliphate. In other words, the Ikhwan, the Muslim Brotherhood, using their alliance with the CIA, attempted to use that as a springboard to begin wiping out a number of the nation states on the map, in particular in North Africa. And these nations were, it seems to me, due to be subverted, overthrown, and so forth, a large-scale operation, which was stopped primarily by the counter-coup, by General Sisi, the Nasserists of Egypt, and also by other efforts, in particular in Syria, the ability of President Assad to hold the line and to stop the rebels. And I think the accelerating collapse of the Syrian rebellion is the other big story. These actually interlock. Let's just set the scene, though. What we've got right now, as of this morning, the State Department has put out a travel advisory for American citizens. If you're going anywhere in North Africa, the Middle East, the Arab world, it looks to me like this goes all the way from, essentially from Morocco all the way to Pakistan. They're telling you to basically don't go, or if you do, watch out. And 17 embassies, basically all of them in the Middle East, the entire Middle East Assistant Secretary of State's portfolio, these are all going to be closed starting on Sunday. Now, we're going towards the end of Ramadan, the period when you're not allowed to eat anything in the daytime, so you wait until nightfall, and then you tend to celebrate, right? You break the fast, and then you it's devoted to conviviality. This Eid el-Fitr, the holiday that marks the end of Ramadan, starts on the 7th of August at sunset. Well, today it's the 2nd of August. So starting on the 4th of August, the following embassies, U.S. embassies, are closed, some of them without further notice. It's Algeria, Yemen, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Bangladesh, Kuwait, Turkey, Oman, Qatar, Egypt, Afghanistan, Mauritania, Iraq, Jordan, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Libya. And there's chatter around this, chatter from the U.S. side, that it's an al-Qaeda operation. Well, and did I say Mauritania? That's another one. This al-Qaeda operation, what could this be? Well, we have some idea. We know that in Egypt there was, scheduled for around now, this colossal power grab by Morsi and his cohorts there, the retainers in the Muslim Brotherhood. They were attempting to seize dictatorial control in Egypt at the same time that they went with a chaos and confusion strategy in the Sinai Peninsula, right? We were some weeks or months away from the creation of an Islamic emirate of North Sinai, the breakdown of the Egyptian state authority in that area. Let me just interpolate at this point. In the current situation that you're in terms of foreign policy, any state is an ally. Any state is an ally. Doesn't matter what the direction is, doesn't matter how oppressive. Any state is an ally because in most cases the alternative tends to be absolute chaos, delirium, and the collapse of civilization, because that's what these emirs, imagine a 2-bit emir, right? It's like an emir, it's about the same as a count, a Graf in Central Europe, right? You might be the Wildgraf or the Markgraf or the Burggraf. You'd be the count of the castle, the count of the barnyard, the count of the farmhouse, right? Of the Saustall, I guess in some cases, right? The pigsty, the Graf of the Saustall. So this is the idea with these emirs, right? These are petty local warlord tyrants, and the emirs. That's what's ruling parts of northern Syria, and that's what was on the schedule here for the northern part of the Sinai Peninsula. So the Egyptian army this past week has launched a large-scale operation to crush the forces attempting to carve an Islamic emirate out of the territory of the country of Egypt. So that is obviously key. And at the same time, there was this plan afoot that we followed here in some detail to use the 500,000 people of the Egyptian armed forces to attack Syria. That was the plan of Morsi and company. And perhaps also an attack on Ethiopia, right? The country, which it may be the oldest Christian country. Certainly Ethiopia would have been a target, and the attempts of Ethiopia to provide economic development and water projects along the Blue Nile. So that's part of it. But at the same time, we had in the past week or 10 days in Libya the assassination of one of the main leaders of the opposition, Musmari, a Nasserist. They bill him as a leftist. He's not so much a leftist as a Nasserist. And in Tunisia, Brahmi, B-R-A-H-M-I, Brahmi, the leftist or Nasserist leader there. You get the idea, an attempt to consolidate dictatorial rule through assassinations. And we'll be back in a minute on World Crisis Radio.
What's safer and cheaper?
Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley here in Washington. It's August 2nd, Friday afternoon here in the nation's capital. What we seem to see is this pattern across North Africa and the Middle East of a power grab, let's call it Operation Caliphate that was in the process of going off, right? It was in the process of starting as of about the end of June, and we're seeing these events occur. Fortunately for the world, the centerpiece of all this, the creation of an unconditional Muslim Brotherhood dictatorship under Morsi in Egypt, right, with the jihad being declared against Syria, right, that those go together, right? If you start a war with Syria, that's a perfect excuse for declaring a state of emergency at home. But at the same time, Morsi refusing to crack down against the crazies in the Sinai. And the Sinai has been, the Sinai Peninsula, right, between the Suez Canal and the Israeli border, and Gaza, on the other hand, in the east, that Sinai Peninsula has become a kind of happy hunting ground for death squad types, jihadis. If you don't go to Syria, then certainly you're going to have a chance of going to Sinai to create trouble there. And again, it seems to me that that part of it is clearly promoted by the CIA and NATO, because the presence of an Islamic emirate in the Sinai is the perfect pretext for NATO to seize the Suez Canal, right? Saying, oh, we don't want to do this, this is terrible, but we have to, because this is an international waterway, and here we have al-Qaeda terrorists who have now carved out a piece of land either right along the bank of the canal or very close to it, depending on how much they think they can grab. So the Islamic Emirates together, right? You get a bunch of Emirates, you slap them together, you get the Caliphate, and who knows what this was going to look like. Maybe the head of the Islamic, the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, Badi might have been the candidate for the Caliphate, right? At least Badi has the decency of wearing a clear label. So, Comrade Badi is either he's got a warrant out or he's already arrested. So watch out for Badi. Who knows how far he thought he was going to go. But the pattern then reaches, first of all, to those 17 countries mentioned by the State Department this morning, a worldwide travel alert focused on North Africa, Middle East, 17 embassies, right? You can get the details again if you didn't hear all of them in the first segment. It's at NBC News International. They're the source of this, right? You look at the State Department website, you can't find their own notice that these places are going to be closed. I guess they do it case by case. So in Libya, we had the assassination of the Nasserist leader Musmari. That was then followed, however, by large-scale demonstrations of secular forces, even in that godforsaken Benghazi, Derna, Tobruk corridor, which was such a theater of fighting, right, between Rommel and the British, the Italians and Rommel against the British in World War II. There was a large demonstration in the wake of the Musmari assassination of secular forces who wanted the government of Libya to crack down on the death squads that have been running wild since the assassination of Gaddafi and the fall of his regime. So that's Musmari. In Tunisia, it's this guy Brahmi, Nasserist, and that comes in the wake 6 months earlier of the assassination of Bel Aid. And the idea there is that the Ennahda party had been clinging to power. They were elected 2 years ago with a mandate to write a constitution and hold elections. It's now 2 years since they got that mandate, and they haven't done either. Apparently the constitution's not ready, and there have not been these elections. So clearly they're looking towards some kind of a dictatorship. So in Libya, it's the net effect of, many of these emirs. In Tunisia, it's the attempt of the Ennahda to stay in power. And we probably ought to factor in Iraq, where the al-Qaeda death squads have had their most active month in 5 years, right? July of 2013 is the month since 2007 with the highest count of people killed through suicide bombs, car bombs, and other such terrorist attacks. And most of those, I guess, 2/3, 3/4, 4/5 are Al-Qaeda. So it is this Sunni emirate, Sunni Caliphate, I guess, in action that's trying to move forward. So you get the idea. This is possibly the Muslim Brotherhood acting according to their alliance with the CIA, which has been evident, right? The Muslim Brotherhood founded by British intelligence in the late 1920s and in a close alliance with the CIA for the past several years. Certainly the centerpiece of this whole fake Arab Spring has been that. Or it could be the Muslim Brotherhood striking out on its own as a Frankenstein and attempting to grab power far beyond what the U.S. wanted. And that possibility might then explain the somewhat ambivalent response of the Western powers. For example, Baroness Ashton, the mediocrity who runs the European Union foreign policy shop left to her by Solana of Spain, Ashton met with Morsi this past week in Egypt and told him to cool it, right, to back off with the protests, that he was not going to be reinstalled. There would be no European armies coming to put him back in so that he could continue with his policy. Now, that's a shift, because before the U.S. was trying to keep him in power, right? The U.S. ambassador, Ann Patterson, was bending over backwards to be nice to Morsi and keep him in power. And that was the word also then reflected in the Cairo streets. Kerry, Skull and Bones Kerry, the Secretary of State, has come out saying that the Egyptian coup, as he calls it, he doesn't call it a coup, sorry. He calls it the attempt to restore democracy and avoid chaos. And he says, so far, it looks like this was millions and millions of people asking the military to put a stop to dangerous abuses and activities by Morsi. Now, of course, it's a coup, but it's a counter coup, and that's the answer. Now, Kerry, obviously not going to tell you that. Kerry, I think, is frustrated. His attempted coup of his own on the 12th of June, with the help of Foreign Secretary Haig of Great Britain, to launch bombing against Syria failed, and now he has sort of got to play along with the people in power in Cairo, because he has really no choice. It means that the counter coup is consolidated. Back in a minute. Welcome back to Crisis Radio. Keep up with everything at Webster G. Tarpley Twitter feed and tarpley.net. So, the attempt to create a fait accompli across large parts of North Africa and the Arab world, quite possibly, with dictatorships of the Muslim Brotherhood, Egypt attacking Syria, possibly also attacking Ethiopia, and we see these operations, like the parts of this that were already in motion and guys couldn't be stopped, despite the Egyptian coup, right? With the Egyptian counter coup, you've got the guts torn out of this effort, but we still see the disparate parts continuing along in Egypt, in Libya, Tunisia, Iraq, and elsewhere, and possibly also with this Al-Qaeda alert coming from the State Department about the 17 embassies in the Middle East, worldwide travel alert, and Americans in the Middle East, North Africa, better watch out. The centerpiece, though, is weakened. The leading edge of this entire thing would have been the Muslim Brotherhood of Egypt, and we're told that Morsi, with his incompetence, with his lies, with his political ineptitude and bungling, weakened the Muslim Brotherhood more in 1 year than the entire repressive efforts of Nasser, Sadat, Mubarak, and others over quite possibly almost 60 years, 60, 70 years even. Morsi, the spare tire president, meaning he's the one that nobody wanted, the ones that that the base wanted were disqualified for various aspects of their criminal record and what have you, although it turned out Morsi had a criminal record of his own. But little Rand Paul comes into the picture, and little Rand tried to cut off aid to Egypt this week. This is interesting. It's a reactionary policy masquerading as something new. Cutting off aid to Egypt, well, what's he doing? He wants to fight General Sisi. He wants to undercut the Nasserists. Sorry, we're not interested in doing anything to undercut the Nasserists, little Rand. We know that you hate and fear Nasserism in the Middle East because it underlines the bankruptcy and the immorality of the libertarian point of view. But for the Middle East and for many, many other areas, that Nasserism is exactly what the doctor ordered. So we then have to add in the picture of Syria. Syria is winning. Assad is winning. Assad went for a visit to one of the neighborhoods, Daraya, I think, near Damascus, which has been liberated and pacified. It's about a year since the U.S., the British, and so forth made their big attempt, coordinated by Ben Rhodes in the Obama White House, to oust Assad. Remember, killing several members of the National Security Council of Syria, bringing in a whole new echelon of crazies from various parts of the world, and attempting also with this fake TV, right? That was Ben Rhodes' signature contribution, right? That with fake TV, you could convince people that Assad had left the country and have the regime collapse that way. It turned out that the Syrian state, again, modeled on the Egyptian Nasserist construction of the 50s and 60s, turns out to be more powerful than those methods. It's also 2 months since the fall of Qusair, 2 months since the principal citadel of the death squad rebels has been liberated by that combination of Syrian Arab army, Hezbollah, and Iranians. And just in the past week, as I think we highlighted last time, Chaldea, the key neighborhood in the city of Homs, has also been liberated. And it looks like the mopping up in Homs will go on for a week or two, but the handwriting is on the wall. The death squads are going to be ejected from Homs. That means that the Syrian Arab Army, Hezbollah, and Iranian advisors can go on to Aleppo and there complete the rout of the insurrection by the time the Mediterranean winter rains begin, say at the end of October. We've also got other interesting signs. The Kurds are now in a pretty much an all-out war with the Al-Qaeda inspired death squads. This is positive. Let the Kurds assert their national autonomy and their national interests against the Caliphate, because that's what it is, right? Al-Qaeda comes in and says, to hell with your Kurdish interests. We're the emirs, and we're going to put a caliph over you, and it sure won't be a Kurd. So the Kurds say no, and they're fighting back. It's a healthy instinct. One of the spokesmen, I think the spokesman of the Free Syrian Army, this week had a huge outburst on television against the Nusra brigades. He said, we want these foreign fighters, these extremists to get out of the country. We don't need them. We don't want them. They're giving us a bad image. We're not them. We're not the Caliphate. We're not the emirate. All these emirs. Get these emirs out. So that's the FSA. They figured that out a little bit late in the day. Since the assassination of Hamami, and Hamami was, of course, part of this FSA command council with the CIA golden boy, General Salim Idris, Hamami was then assassinated by an emir, the coastal emir of the Islamic Emirate of Iraq and the Levant. This was the coastal emirate chief who killed Hamami personally. Since then, of course, we've had war in many cases between the FSA And the Nusra brigades, death squad fratricide, is weakening this rebellion even more. We've even got examples of soldiers who were in the Syrian army. They defected to the rebellion, and they're now seeking to be pardoned. They're seeking to go back to the Syrian Arab army. So you put all of that together, the rebellion may collapse faster than anybody thinks, and the mop-up will take a while because of the nature of this fighting. But I would say by the end of October, beginning of November, clearly the rebels are going to be driven back to thin strips along the Turkish border and along the Jordanian border. And I think this is now clear in Western capitals, so much so that we're getting what I would call a post-Libya Syria cleanup. And we're going to talk about this in the segments in the next hour. But it revolves around this CNN story that was put on yesterday by Jake Tapper and Drew Griffin. Let me just give you a minute of historical background. At the end of Iran-Contra is very similar to this because Iran-Contra was the U.S. intelligence community acting through the Contras in Central America. This was illegal, and sending weapons to Iran. That was also illegal, and then moving the money around, which was a third illegality. At the end of that, when that operation came to an end, the CIA, under the general guidance of Vice President George H.W. Bush, who was the czar of covert operations during the Reagan years, as well as his own term. So from 1981 to 1993, George H.W. Bush was the covert action czar. Lots of people were liquidated. There was lots of wet work, and this was generally understood to be the Iran-Contra cleanup. And we may be getting into such a thing right now. I think that the harbinger of that is the CNN story that there were dozens of CIA operatives on the ground in Benghazi, and they didn't do anything to save the life of Ambassador Stevens. But we're going to get to that in our second hour. Back in a minute. Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley here in Washington, D.C. Now, we're going to shift away from the Middle East and the Caliphate and the post-Libya Syria cleanup and turn our attention to the New York City mayoralty race, and in particular efforts to get Randy Credico, to get him the largest number of votes that can be gotten in the Democratic primary, and equally or more important right now, the efforts to get him on the ballot in November. And we're actually very honored to be joined by Daniela Walls. Daniela is a person who has contributed a great deal in terms of strategy, as well as the detailed work to follow up on the strategy to the Credico campaign in the Democratic primary, but she's also really one of the prime movers behind the idea of having the tax Wall Street party and get that on the ballot in November. And Daniela, just let me note in passing, she is a stand-up comedian with a very interesting career and insights in her own right. Now, today we only have a couple of minutes. We got to talk about Credico, but sometime soon we're going to get her to talk about some other ideas that she has. Daniela, welcome.
Hi, thanks, Webster.
We're delighted to have you. Now, let's ask you, first of all, right, where the rubber meets the road right now is getting these signatures. We got to get 7,500 at least by August 20th. Tell us how it's going.
At least 7,500, but we need 3,750 that's the threshold by August 20th, but we're going to need 7,500 to about 10,000 to make sure that we don't get challenged. And we need them from registered New York City voters, and that's to get Randy Credico on the ballot in November on the Tax Wall Street Party ticket. So we're launching this new Tax Wall Street Party for the general election to take those who supported us in the Democratic primary, which he made the Democratic primary ballot against all odds with a small team of volunteers and the same resources we have now. But so now we need 3,750 signatures. But like we said, we need double that amount because we could still be challenged, and especially when these petitions are going to come in with a name like Tax Wall Street Party on them. So would you like me to go down the protocol?
Why don't we just suppose I'm sitting in New York City right now and I want to sign up for Credico. What do I do?
Okay, so all New York City registered voters can sign the petition. This is a nominating petition to get Randy on the ballot under the name Tax Wall Street Party. You can find and download and print this petition at Credico2013.org, CREDICO 2013.org. And all over Randy's website, you're going to find buttons that say nominating petition, print here. So you print and download, you download and you print that nominating petition. The petition needs to be signed by a witness. You can't just sign it yourself and mail it in. You have to have a witness. This isn't difficult to find a witness because this witness can be any other New York State registered voter. The person signing needs to be a New York City registered voter. To sign or witness the petition, you can be affiliated with any party. You can be a Democrat, a Republican, independent, Libertarian, Green, Druid, doesn't matter. Not like the last round where you had to be a Democrat. This time you can be affiliated with any party. You just have to be a New York City registered voter to sign and a New York State registered voter to witness the signatures. This is all outlined as well in detail on the website. But if you have any questions...
Can you give us the website?
Yeah, website, Credico2013.org. And if you can't figure it out from the website, it should be clearly explained, but you can always give me a call. That would be appreciated, especially if you're out there helping us petition and you want to get multiple petitions signed. Please give me a call at 310-926-1584 or email me at taxwallstreetparty@gmail.com, TAXWALLSTREET, party@gmail.com. But I want to say this, what the campaign really needs right now are volunteers to get out on the streets of New York City and petition with us. People who will go out and gather as many signatures as they can. We need more than individual signatures mailed in. We need petitioners to come out and help our team. The team is going to be in different locations in New York City every day. The best way to find out where our team is going to be in real time is to call our petition leader. His name is Christopher Reese, and you can call Chris at 908-433. 908-433-3266 is his number. 908-433-3266. And Chris is a really nice guy, so please call him. And the team is out having fun and doing a great job, but we need more volunteers. So if you want to volunteer, please give us a call.
And in this, you can come from anywhere you want, right? You can come from California, whatever it is.
Yes, yes, because we're going to have enough witnesses there. So we could use the manpower. So we are going to have...
You got to bring people to the table, right? You got to go out and say, hey, come and sign, get them over to the table, and then the New York State accredited people take over.
Exactly.
All right, wonderful.
Now, and right now we're organizing, if anybody is coming from out of town, also give us a call because we're organizing some places for people to stay. If anybody wants to come in from anywhere and work on this full time, we can find you guys places to stay in New York City because that can get really expensive. So right now, I was spending earlier this morning locating potential houses. And if you're somebody who wants to volunteer some space or you have an apartment in New York City, that would be excellent too. We need everything we can get right now.
Okay. Now, how about the money, right? The Army travels on its stomach. How about donations?
Okay. So if you're not in New York City and you can't get to New York City, but you'd still like to contribute, then you have the option to donate at Credico2013.org/donate. Donations. Your donations are going to be helpful right now because they're directly going to pay a team of professional petitioners that can make the big push where our volunteers can't. Because we're counting on volunteers, but we really need at this point that one big push, that foundation of numbers. and our professional street team is paid by the hour, but what it's working out, we're finding to be is about $1 per signature. So, like, if you can give $25 and you're not in New York City, then you can look at that as yourself having gathered 25 signatures for us. If you can give more, like 100 or 1,000, then you've contributed roughly 100 or 1,000 signatures, and that makes a big dent in our minimum number of 3,750. But we need, like I said, 75 to 10,000 to keep ourselves safe from the challenges that they're going to throw our way.
Very good. And for many people, this is not a king's ransom, right? This is what some people spend for lunch. So,
right.
Credico2013.org.
Right. Exactly. Like, I was out at a dinner the other night, and I saw that somebody's dinner bill was $400, and I thought, oh my God, that could be 400 signatures towards something so historic. I wanted to just die. So please, if you have $100 to spare, that's 100 signatures towards this small number, this small threshold to build a new party that we need.
All right, now hurrying on. The candidate, Randy Credico, has been in the multi-candidate forums. He's been rubbing elbows with the infamous Wiener, with Quinn and others. When is the next one?
The next big event that I have, I don't have a calendar after Sunday, but is the next big event where we're going to have a petition. We're going to have a petition drive before this event. Is a film in. First of all, you can find out exactly where Randy is by clicking on the calendar link, and we keep that updated, just so you know. That the listeners know, click on Credico2013.org/calendar, and that'll be updated. But the next big event is at the Brooklyn Film Festival. It's not a debate or a forum, but Randy's going to be the featured speaker at a activist film called Battle for Brooklyn, about people losing their homes in Brooklyn. And he's going to give a speech, and then he's going to have a Q&A with the director. And then before that film, which starts at 6 p.m., the team is going to gather at 3 p.m.
Hang on, Daniela. If you can just stay with me for 5 minutes, we can wrap up. But remember, Credico is demanding no foreclosures, so he's going to be a big hit at that Brooklyn event. We'll be back in just a minute. Daniela, please stay with us. Well, welcome back to World Crisis Radio. We're just finishing up our campaign report on the Credico campaign for mayor of New York, joined by Daniela Walls, who's in the thick of all this, directing much of the campaign. Let me just mention that there was a very good write-up of Credico in the New York Metro newspaper, right? Big circulation, freely distributed all over New York City, and it featured Credico as the leading light of the tax Wall Street party. But Daniela, you were telling us about Credico at the Brooklyn Film Festival, and maybe
the next
tell us something about the tax Wall Street party.
Where people can come and join us. So this is going to be on Sunday, this upcoming Sunday, so in 2 days from now. 3 p.m., the team is going to gather. The movie starts at 6 p.m. It looks like a pretty good movie. It says, I just looked it up right now, a documentary that follows the stories of a Brooklyn neighborhood as the residents fight to save their homes from being destroyed by an impending real estate project. So Randy's going to speak about on the content of that film and talk about his platform and his promises to New York residents. So we are gathering at 3 p.m. for the petition drive, and anybody who wants to stay then can watch the film and hear Randy.
Gathering where, if you can tell us that. So
gathering where, yes. The location of the theater is St. Francis College. It's in Brooklyn, so it's St. Francis College, 180 Remsen Street, Remsen Street, Brooklyn, New York, 11201, and we are going to be in front of, the team is going to be at 3 o'clock sharp in front of St. Francis College. And all the address will be on the under the calendar, and there'll be a map and directions and all that stuff there. And if you can come, the best thing you can do is, again, call the petition team leader, Christopher Reese, and his number is, one more time, 908-433-3266. Call Chris, and he'll tell you exactly where he is. If you
Great. As an old Brooklynite, I think Remsen Street, that's got to be downtown Brooklyn, so it's not that far away. It's not Canarsie.
No, it's not. I think it's like Brooklyn
Bay.
Heights or something.
It's close. Daniela, just a couple of words about the Tax Wall Street Party. This was, to a large extent, your idea. Give us some insight.
Okay, well, this is all happening pretty fast. We're launching. We're building this all simultaneously while we're trying to get them on the ballot. We're crafting this new party as a necessity because it needs to happen. So we're launching the party for the general election. After we got Credico on the ballot for the Democratic primary, we had to quickly go to Plan B, and we want to take those supporters, those who supported us from the Democratic primary, right into the Tax Wall Street Party. It's a 1% Wall Street sales tax to fund a new America. We're crafting our platform as we speak. I have some people at my house who are working on this. And the main point is a 1% Wall Street sales tax and what can be done with that. The stock transfer tax is might be new to some people, or they might think it's outrageous, but it isn't really anything new. Like we used it like earlier in our republic. The stock transfer tax was implemented during the Civil War, and the tax was used in addition to Lincoln. Well, you're the historian, so it's awkward to get into history with you, but it was used in addition to Lincoln using greenbacks to pay for the war. And then it was used again during the Spanish-American War and also in the beginning of World War I. In 1914, Congress adopted a small stock transfer tax that remained on the books until 1966, I think.
Right, that's it.
Is that accurate?
That's right. So we're going back to something that is it's proven to be constitutional. It's tremendously useful, and in today's overgrown, super financialized casino economy, it's just what we need. All right, Daniela, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
You got it. People should contact Daniela at taxwallstreetparty@gmail.com. Correct? taxwallstreetparty@gmail.com.
Yes, and please contact me and come out to help us. Thank
you.
Good,
and we'll see you all in the streets.
Okay.
Thank you, Daniela. One last thing.
Thank you very much.
Can we get you to promise to come back next week and give us another report?
Yeah, I'd love to give you a report because this is all happening so fast and things are changing each week. It's a whole
Nobody has a better overview than you. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next week at around the same time. Make a note of it right now.
I will. Thank you. Bye-bye,
Okay.
Webster.
Thank you so much. All right. So thank you, Daniela Walls. We're now going to go back to the Middle East, and in particular, this CNN story. What happened in Benghazi? Oh, the Republicans want to know what happened in Benghazi. Well, we have Jake Tappert and Drew Griffin yesterday talking to us about what seems to have occurred, and this is the Benghazi event of September 11th, 2012, right? The October surprise that came a little bit early. CNN has uncovered exclusive new information about what is allegedly happening at the CIA in the wake of the deadly Benghazi terror attack. Now, you knew all this. If you listened to this program, if you read Webster G. Tarpley Twitter feed, there are articles about this that are up on tarpley.net. What was in Benghazi was a CIA facility. It was not a consulate. The consulate was the least of it. The main thing was the CIA annex. And you'll even remember the hysteria of the Romneyite, the Mormon congressman, Jason Chaffetz, in the congressional hearings when he freaked out as the State Department delegation showed an overhead map of Benghazi showing that there was this CIA annex. He said, "You got to take that down. We can't talk about that. They told me to keep this a secret." So Chaffetz, of course, reciting off the CIA script. So this, again, is not new, but this looks to me like the beginning of a cleanup operation that may go from career-ending events to wet work, let's say, life-ending events in certain cases. So here's the way it looks. We're told, according to the CNN story, there were 35 CIA operatives on the ground in Benghazi, more than enough to take out the assault rifles and grenade launchers and beat back the assault of the Sufyan Qumu's Ansar al-Islam, prevent them from attacking the consulate. But they didn't do it. I'm adding this part. So 21 of these CIA people were at the annex. We've been told that there were a couple of people at the annex, but we were never told it was so many. Well, we knew that here on the program. You don't need CNN. You need Tarpley.net. Dozens of CIA operatives on the ground. And what's going on now is that there are frequent, even monthly, polygraph tests. It means a lie detector test to prevent the CIA veterans of this event from talking to the media and the Congress, and they're told that their families will be jeopardized if they spill the beans. Well, we'll be back in a minute on World Crisis Radio. Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. So the CNN story about Benghazi, which simply revisits the facts that I have been talking about since a few hours after the event there in Benghazi, September 11th of last year. We're now told that there's a reign of terror inside the CIA. This would have started under Petraeus, and it would have continued under Morell, and it would now be going on under Brennan. All of these people need to be sacked, and Petraeus and Carter Ham need to be grilled because they are the people in the chain of command who could have given the stand-down order. Don't do anything to prevent Stevens and others from getting killed because we need it as an October surprise against Obama. That's the real story. The Mormon, pro-Romney, neocon Islamophobia network that was involved in doing this. So we have CIA consultant Robert Baer saying it's normal to get polygraphed every 4 years inside the agency, but not once a month. That would be called an issue polygraph. They're coming for you. Frank Wolf, the congressman here from Northern Virginia, wants the testimony. He said people were coming forward after Benghazi seeking to testify. They wanted to be subpoenaed, but then they all disappeared. We say grill Petraeus, grill Ham. And here are the questions for Petraeus. Sufyan Qumu, let out of Guantanamo, was the one who allegedly killed Ambassador Stevens, his group, the Ansar al-Islam. Why did the CIA allow their own clients to go and kill Stevens? Because remember, the Ansar group, this was created, right? Qumu was sent back with the task of overthrowing Gaddafi, and he helped to do it. There's also this thing about the February Martyrs Brigade that were providing the security. They were the ones who fled, right, stripping the security of the compound such as it was, and that then allowed Stevens to be killed. These martyrs are the ones who killed one of the top contenders to be the head of the Libyan military, General Yunus. Remember, General Yunus was assassinated so that Khalifa Hifter from Northern Virginia, from the CIA, could take over as head of the Libyan military. So that's what you want to know from Petraeus, and you want to know from Carter Ham, how come the forces at Sigonella Air Base in the middle of Sicily, not Aviano, but 800 miles further south, about an hour away from Benghazi and so forth, how come those assets were not mobilized? How come even the few special forces that were in Tripoli were told not to go anywhere? I think this is a signal that some of this stuff is going to come out. Because remember, what's involved is the shipment of terrorists and weapons from Libya to Turkey and into Syria. State Department says, oh, no, only old, damaged, and unsafe weapons were being destroyed. The State Department talks about it. The CIA so far, not. The CIA are the ones you want to grill. Petraeus is on the hot seat. General Petraeus is on the hot seat as a result of this CNN story. And various Republicans say we should issue about 50 subpoenas. Good. Do that. Make sure Petraeus gets one. and Carter Ham, and then ask them, how come the assets that you controlled in your chain of command, don't tell us Obama and that Obama was at the bowling alley. Tell us about your chain of command and what happened to that. Okay. Now, let's look at some themes of austerity now, shifting to domestic. On the student loan front, we have a rotten compromise that looks like it might go somewhere. Instead of the Elizabeth Warren Tierney bill that cuts the interest rate to 0.75%, paid for by Bernanke, paid for by the Federal Reserve through the discount window, we've got something that gets it down to 3.8 or 3.9. But unfortunately, this is keyed to the 10-year Treasury note, and that is no good. We don't want market forces. We want guaranteed rock-bottom rates so that people who are planning their education, they may be beginning high school now. They want to know what courses to take. Should they hope to go to college, or should they give up in despair? We want to say you're going to have the lowest possible student loan rate, and if a zombie bank can get it for 0.75, you should not have to pay 3.8. And, of course, the secret is that this will then go on to become a much higher rate. It will be 7 or 8% most likely in the near future. Fabrice Touré of Goldman Sachs, convicted. Remember what he did. This was a collateralized debt obligation. It was not just a collateralized debt obligation. It was a synthetic collateralized debt obligation, a CDO squared. That means a collateralized debt obligation that contained other collateralized debt obligations. What should happen with all of this? Ban them, outlaw them, shred them, delete them. Even Lloyd Blankfein, at the end of his day of testifying in the Senate Committee on Capitol Hill, was willing to entertain in an interview the possibility that CDOs might have to be banned. They should have clapped him into the jail, right? The Congress has a little jail in that building. That's where Blankfein should have been sitting until that ban had gone through. We've also got the entire question of Obamacare, which we're going to get to in a minute. Why don't we just begin that question? Is there a right to health care? Do humans, Americans, people, have a right to health care under natural law? And I say they do. The Constitution enshrines the issue of the general welfare. It is once in the preamble, along with some other tasks, and then it is specifically mentioned, the general welfare mentioned as a specific task of the Congress, along with the common defense. The common defense and the general welfare, that's what Congress is supposed to concentrate on. So it means the general welfare is in the Constitution not once, but twice. Now, given our evolving notion of what is necessary, right, this is an economic phenomenon, right, the content of a standard of living that will put you at the level of technology, education, and so forth that are necessary to operate in the economy of the 21st century, it means that you've got to have a firm base in comprehensive health care. This is an economic necessity. It goes from being an economic necessity to a human right. How in God's name can you compete in this world economy of the 21st century if you've got a scrofulous, disease-ridden workforce? You've got to develop your workforce. Therefore, it's a right. It's not a privilege for the few, and it's not a commodity that you can get if you're rich and then not get if you're poor. It's a right under natural law, under the general welfare. Back in a minute. Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. So now let's look at the Obamacare question once again. As you know, as long as the issue remained open, as long as the bill was subject to amendment, I was pushing for Medicare for all. That means a government takeover of health care. Yes, indeedy. Along the lines of Medicare, and so the only change would have been remove the age 65 requirement in Medicare, make it available to everybody for about $100 per person per month. That would solve it, and that would be universal health care. You've got to develop your labor force, or you are ethnographic material for Chinese anthropologists in the 21st century. This is simply an imperative. It does not admit of any other solution. You cannot have a disease-ridden workforce and hope, because you've got to train your workers. You've got to give them the extra edge, extra years of education, extra years of technological and other background. You can't afford to have them die. You've got to keep everybody in good health, because each one of them is becoming a vessel of capital investment through education, and that is an imperative. Now, the current situation, Obamacare. Now, as long as this question was open, we were for Medicare for all. Once the bill had been done, we obviously were pushing for amendments and to revisit this. But at a certain point, the door shuts on that. Once it gets before the Supreme Court, you don't want the Supreme Court to be able to just invalidate it and say nothing, zero. Obamacare is better than nothing, provided you're willing to fight, that you're willing to get inside and fight and assert your economic rights, right? We've got our usual weepers, our usual nervous Nellies, right? People who are afraid of injections. They think they're going to die from a flu shot. Oh, my God. The libertarians, right? The benighted, the obscurantists, right? They hate education. They hate science. They hate medicine. They hate universities, hate schools, hate the government. They hate most of the institutions that add up to civilization. So we simply cannot take our lead from these people, right? They're at the level of the hick, right? The rube, the bumpkin, who's afraid of doctors and God knows what. So we've got to turn away from obscurantism and this anti-science hysteria and look at it for what it is. Now, there is a problem. Even Howard Dean has said in the past couple of days that Obamacare does contain a death panel, or at least a potential death panel, and that, of course, is the Independent Payment Advisory Board. Howard Dean writes in the Wall Street Journal of July 29th that the IPAB, Independent Payment Advisory Board, is essentially a healthcare rationing body, and it's going to fail because it's going to try to deny people coverage. That's true. But the remedy to that is not to say, I'm going to stay home and vegetate away and die alone. It's to get in there and fight and, do that with a political mobilization. Now, we're now dealing with the phase where this is either going to take off or not. The Republican argument so far has been that Obamacare is awful and people don't like it. Now, part of this is the hysterical lying propaganda of the Republicans themselves. The other side of it is what can we say, lying, evasive rhetorical stance of Obama and his people. He's so afraid to say, yeah, you're going to have to buy an insurance policy. He's a gutless wonder. And, of course, the fact that it's the unknown, because you're really not under it yet, right? The thing has not kicked in. Positive factors include that children no longer have the insurance companies can no longer exclude children because of pre-existing conditions. That will then be extended to the entire population starting on January 1st. And the other thing is that there's no lifetime limit, or indeed, I think, yearly limit for children so far. So there are important positive things. Plus, kids can stay on their parents' policies until they're 26. How is that the end of Western civilization? I don't know. Obviously, we're in a time of economic depression. But if you're in a depression, the remedy to that is not starting to cut benefits, but to have a recovery program so you get out of the depression. Republicans are a million miles away from that. So the Republican line has been, articulated by Dick Morris. Dick Morris says, don't do anything about Obamacare. Let it take effect. It will collapse of its own weight. Yeah. Well, it turns out the Republicans don't believe that. And the one who now lets it out of the bag with fascist cynicism is Ted Cruz. I've heard leading libertarians say they agree with Ted Cruz more and more. Let's get Ted Cruz straight. His wife works for Goldman Sachs. The breadwinner in the family is from Goldman Sachs. So when you see that hypocritical face, right, he looks like a hypocritical Elmer Gantry minister, right, feigning piety, the facies hypocrita of Ted Cruz. This guy is married to Goldman Sachs. That's where the money in the family comes from. Even a libertarian, no matter how stupid you are, and libertarians can get plenty dumb, should be able to figure that one out. So, what does he say? He lets out of the bag that he doesn't believe the Republican line. He says, people are going to love Obamacare. This is the problem. And here's his line. This is Denver in late July. On January 1st, says Cruz, the exchanges kick in and the subsidies kick in. Once those kick in, it's going to prove almost impossible to undo Obamacare. The administration's plan is very simple. Get everyone addicted to the sugar, I would say, to your economic rights, so that Obamacare remains a permanent feature of our society. Now, Obamacare does not realize the inherent human right to medical care. It does so to a very limited extent. But Obamacare does, for the average person, tend to suggest that you have a right to health care, and that if nobody else provides it, the government is a quite feasible vehicle for that health care to be provided. So look, this means that Cruz is essentially saying, we've got to sabotage this before it goes into effect because people are going to love it. The Tom Towles cartoons here in the Washington Post on this, remember the previous one, the drip says Obamacare, and the drip line goes across a chair. There's a huge fat Republican elephant sitting on the chair, and the patient is dying, and the Republican elephant says, see, it doesn't work. Now, we got another one on Wednesday of this week. Obamacare drip, the Republican elephant is sitting on it. The Republican elephant says, see, it's not working. And the patient says, actually, it still is, in spite of all your sabotage. And then in the second frame, the Republican elephant with a dirty scowl is sitting on the patient, crushing him. And he says, and I say it isn't working. I say it isn't. So this is the Republican Party. They're willing to introduce chaos and breakdown into the healthcare system as a right, as the price, which they're happy to pay, you're going to pay, to prevent people from getting the idea that they have the economic right to health care, which we do have under natural law and then recognized in the Constitution. Back in a minute. Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley here in Washington, D.C. Let's just continue with this Obamacare question. I recommend that you take a good look at it. Right? You can go to the Kaiser Family Foundation, where you find a calculator of the size of the subsidy for which you might qualify. A family of four can get some kind of a subsidy up to about $90,000 to $95,000 in income. So people in the middle range, right, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 per year might well qualify for a discount, a subsidy. And there may even be further tax breaks down the line. But let's just look at the cost. The Republicans, saboteurs, exponents of chaos, and in this case, murder. I'm sorry, this is murder. The Republicans say, for example, the authorities in Indiana, run by the reactionary Mitch Daniels, they say, oh, it's going to cost everybody $700 more. In Ohio, it's going to cost you $1,000 more. Those are estimates. Those are numbers picked out of the air by Republican operatives. Forget that. That probably comes from ALEC or Americans for Prosperity or the Koch brothers, right? Maybe that's what the number that occurred to David Koch in the shower this morning. Let's go to a couple of states that have actually published the rates at which you can buy a health care policy. Let's take the biggest one first. California. They just had a glittering launch of Covered California. Covered meaning you got coverage. So if you're a 40-year-old single person and you want to buy the silver plan, right, it goes bronze, silver, gold, platinum. In a number of states, there's also a rock bottom catastrophic. So catastrophic, bronze, silver, gold, platinum. And the quality goes up. The other thing is that on the lower ranks, you pay less as a premium and perhaps more as a copay or co-insurance or other fees. Anyway, 40-year-old single person in California, you want to buy the silver plan, sort of in the middle, you would pay $300 a month or $3,600 per year. Now, as of right now, the cost of such a plan, if you're getting it through your job, is $5,500. With obviously some of that being taken over by the job, but it's a discount. It's about $2,000 less if you're getting it under Obamacare. So that comes close to what was promised in that one case. Now, not all cases. A lower income person in California, suppose you've got an income of $17,000, you will pay $700 a year for the silver policy. And you could get the bronze policy for almost nothing, just copays for services rendered. Now, this is before you get to the subsidies. The subsidies come on top of this. If you're under 30, you can get, these are the people that are targeted most, right? The people who need to sign up are the people who consider themselves invincible and immortal and need to sign up, right? Because you could still have a snowboarding, you could break your neck snowboarding or cycling. You could have an overdose. You could get an HIV diagnosis. There are lots of things. An automobile crash, right? Lots of things can go wrong. This is just common prudence. If you're under 30 in California, you can get the catastrophic plan for $150 a month, $1,800 per year. That also gives you various wellness visits, right? Preventive care, different stuff like this. That's a 21-year-old on the silver plan in California. It's expected that 5 million people will sign up immediately through Covered California. The congressman from Washington State says 80% of the state will get coverage through Obamacare. Now, if you have medical insurance already, if you have a employer policy or your own policy, you can ignore all this, although you might want to look and see if you could save a lot of money. If you're on Medicare, that stays the same. The article here is in the New Republic by Jonathan Cohen. California will be spared the Obama apocalypse. No sticker shock here, just affordable insurance premiums. How about Maryland? Maryland has published the figures. 21-year-old non-smoker gets basic health insurance for as little as $93 a month on the Maryland Health Connection. If you're a 50-year-old non-smoker, the silver plan can be gotten for $267 a month and up, depending on which one you choose. But there are 34 reactionary Republican states which refuse to create their exchanges, and therefore the feds have to do it. By the way, the exchange is a website. The exchange is something like Expedia or Kayak or something like this, where you go and you tell your age and some stuff about your health status, and then you're given a series of plans to choose from, right? Except maybe in the Mississippi Delta, in some cases, there's no choice because these wonderful private insurance companies didn't want to offer bids. So we have so far California, Maryland, and New York, which is similar. These prices are not that bad. They do not substantiate the scare propaganda coming from the fascisto Republicans. Now, we've got the usual suspects, Mike Lee, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, Rubio, and others, backed up by Hannity and God knows what others. and they are saying it's time to shut down the government once again. Stop Obamacare, defund Obamacare, and devil take the hindmost. Now, we have Charles Krauthammer writing today in the Washington Post. How fractured is the GOP? Let's cut right to the chase. The defunding of Obamacare, led by Mike Lee and Ted Cruz, the GOP insurgents are threatening to shut down the government. And Krauthammer says, this is nuts. It's a guaranteed defeat. I hope sincerely that the Republicans attempt to do this, that the hypocritical monster, really, Cruz, goes all the way, and Mike Lee of the Mountain Meadows Massacre continues the great family tradition over there in the Senate, and little Rand gets involved, too. How about this? Michael Gerson, he's a Bush, the younger speechwriter, a custer for our time, and he says, we've got probably 15 members of the Senate that are going along with Lee and Cruz, and you've got the Club for Growth, the Heritage Action for America, you've got Hannity, although not O'Reilly, going along with this chaos and confusion, right? Wreck the federal government, ignore the law, violate the law, go for chaos, confusion, and naturally death. Because if you disrupt the healthcare system in this way, some people are going to die, of course, but these people don't care. The Eugene Robinson, the party of nutty ideas, right? The party of no, it's going into the party of pure insanity. So remember, the number one imperative is that the Republican Party, as it currently exists, should be destroyed in place, and then quickly split the Democratic Party into populist or New Deal and the Obama-led Wall Street Democrats. So this is going on. The other thing to be said about this is right now under existing law, if you have an overdose, if you break your neck skateboarding, if you have an automobile crash, if you get your some kind of STD diagnosis, you're going to go to an emergency room and you're going to get care, and you don't pay. They'll send you a bill, but who knows if that's ever going to be collected on. What this plan simply does, and I'm not for it. I'm for Medicare for all. But if you're going to keep private insurance companies, there really is no other way to do it than this. So the young people should sign up for their own benefit, not to support Obama, but so they have some kind of a catastrophic policy at a fairly decent, fairly attractive price. Obviously, if you're older and sicker and you don't qualify for Medicare yet, don't die. Hang on, stay alive, sign up, and then by January 1st or 2nd, most likely, there's going to be a huge influx into doctors' offices of people who haven't been able to get health care any other way. And remember, the guiding principle is the American people have the right to health care. So get out and fight for your rights under natural law, under God's law, under the Constitution, and don't let a reactionary